so welcoming. I really appreciate it. I actually had an opportunity to speak to some of you back, I believe it was in December, right? It's been a couple months. And it's been a terrific couple months. It's been a terrific campaign so far. I have had just a wonderful opportunity to really meet and talk with people throughout our community, people who are impassioned Republicans. And it is important that we keep this seat. Right now, the seat that I am running for is Judge Denise Cross. She is a Republican. She has not only been the administrative judge for the last 23 years at Domestic Relations Court, she is the presiding judge of the Court of Common Pleas, all divisions. Sorry, I'm going to walk around a little bit on you. I'll try and stay put.
Thank you.
So just to give you, because some of you are new to me and I haven't had an opportunity to really sit and talk with you, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I have been working in the court system for family law for 27 years. Okay? I started at juvenile court in 1997. I came out to Dayton in 1995 to go to law school. Within about 2 months of being here, I started volunteering at my church. I started playing as a flute at my local church because it made me connected to my faith and to my community, right? By 1997, I interviewed and was hired on at juvenile court, and I was very fortunate to be working under then the chief magistrate, Denise Cross. She was the one who had hired me. One of the very first projects I worked on was child protection mediation. Between that and studying a profile of a typical child in detention, I knew that I had found my home. I was very fortunate to have a strong family background who took much care and love and guided me and corrected me when needed, okay? And I saw kids coming into detention who would reoffend because they were getting 3 square meals and they had people checking in on them every day. I knew that this was my calling, to work with kids and families, grandparents, and whomever else in the community I could. I ended up actually becoming a mediator for the city of Dayton. I did that on my own time. I got certified, and for a few years I actually did mediation for neighborhood disputes. Because again, we try and keep our homes happy, right? And everything else can kind of go from there. These are foundational points for me in my career. I stayed with juvenile court for 18 years. I went from a part-time law clerk all the way up to director of court services. I ended up having 40 staff under me who I supervised, people who were at the window, front hand clerks, as well as the clerks in the courtroom. So I understood something that many of you may have heard, procedural justice. We have a responsibility of getting people access to the court. You do not always have to have an attorney. Now, it's usually in your best interest to have an expert who knows how to navigate the system. But you could always come to my window and you are always welcome to file something on behalf of you or your family. 2015, 18 years in at my career at juvenile court, Judge Cross decides that she is reorganizing domestic relations court. She wanted a trustworthy person to stand by her side and start doing this reorganization. She wanted a court administrator. She came to me, she called me up, she says, let's meet. We met. She never posted that position externally. She never posted internally. She came to me. She offered me the job and I took it. I've been there for 9 years and I love what I do. I find purpose every single day. Part of what I do at the court is court administration. That was what I was originally hired for. But shortly after joining her, she swore me in as a magistrate because, again, I have a license. I'm a lawyer. So she said, I want you to be sworn in as a magistrate because you can help cover our hearings. Our meaning Judge Cross's and Judge Wood's. I also assist on magistrates. Our domestic violence in this community has really seen an uptick over the last few years. COVID made the domestic violence more lethal. I have for about 7 years, been extremely involved in addressing domestic violence.
Define what you said, magistrate. COVID made domestic violence legal. If you wouldn't mind
Lethal.
expounding. Lethal.
Lethal, more,
Lethal.
yes,
Thank you,
more
ma'am.
deadly. So people, in the past, it used to be more of an anomaly when people would actually try to strangle or choke someone, right? I hear those cases, my colleagues hear those cases weekly. And when I say they're being choked to the point where they are suffocating the person to unconsciousness. You don't have to just talk to me. You can call Artemis. You can call YW. Everyone has seen an uptick in how drastic, how dangerous it is getting out in the community. And one thing I was sharing with someone earlier today was my concern about all of this is that we have great services for our victims. We do. In this community, there are wraparound services. We help victims at any stage, whether they're ready to file a court case, whether they're ready to leave, whether they want to stay where they are but be safer. We have a myriad of people who can do outreach and who can support them. And we get them from victims to survivors, right? We aren't doing enough with the abusers. Instead of saying, why does she stay? We should be asking the question, why does he or she feel they can put their hands on them? And why are we tolerating it as a community, as a society? We have to change the conversation. So, this has been, obviously, a passion of mine, something that I am really getting involved with. I talk regularly with our law enforcement. We've tried to start bridging some communication with our hospitals, right? Because they can tell us physically what is happening to the body when there's this kind of trauma. But we are looking to start addressing this behavior. It's mental health. Who in their right mind is going to hurt somebody? Sorry, just how I feel. And there are experts that agree with that. So we want to try and get some mental health dollars brought into the community because it doesn't necessarily have to be all on our backs, right? And that's one of the things that I'm really good at as a court administrator. I already told you, I hear these cases, I make decisions, I know how to run a courtroom. My judges have full confidence in my abilities as a magistrate. What do I mean by that? About a month and a half ago, I'm driving to work, I get a text message, and it says, Jennifer, there's been an emergency, Judge Wood needs you to cover his docket. It's a mass docket, which means, if anybody, do you remember the term cattle call, where they would have boom, 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 okay, case after case after case after case? Well, that's still happening, and we have what we call non-contested divorces, and we have dissolutions. So those cases can go pretty rapidly, one after another. He was unable to come in to work. I got about 20 minutes notice. I parked my car, I threw my stuff in my office, grabbed my robe, and I was on his bench hearing those cases. We got through the docket, not a problem. I point this out because I have other responsibilities. I don't just hear cases in my court, but I can easily step in and be a judge. I do it on a part-time basis right now, okay? But there's another side a lot of people don't understand about judges and our responsibilities. I work hand in hand, seamlessly, every day with the judges in my court. We have administrative duties. That's why there are so many magistrates at domestic relations court. They have to carry those ongoing motions. When people come back to court and they want some changes for parenting time, the kid's getting a little bit older, maybe it's time for Johnny to go stay with dad because he's a teenager now and things are getting a little tough, right? Those kind of post-decree, that's what we call them, post-divorce kind of motions, those are usually handled by a magistrate. That does free up the judges to take care of some more serious cases, more complex divorces. They address all the contempts as far as, is it time for someone to go to jail because they can't seem to abide by a court order? The other thing that they do, though, is they have to run our court like a business. Believe it or not, our funding is taxpayer dollars, not the entire budget, because we know the other resources in our community. Because we hear child support cases, there are federal dollars available, but you gotta know how to do the contract, and you gotta track everybody's time, and you gotta watch how you're using spending dollars, and making sure that you're filling out forms every month that are about this thick. Guess what? My court thrives at it. I've been doing it for over 20 years. I've been managing staff for 23 years. I've been working on these contracts for 23 years. I know the system. I know how to make sure that we are taking care of our local tax-paying dollars. I know how to make good connections with our Office of Management and Budget at the county level. I have connections at the state level. Let me give you another way that I worked hand in hand with the judges to move us forward. One of the paramount responsibilities of a court is access to a court. 2 years ago, I met a woman from Columbus. She is part of a group called Ohio Legal Help. They're technology computer developers. And she said, look, we're looking to get forms online so that if people want to start the case themselves, they can do it. But we need to do it in a computer way, but we need someone to write it with us, right? They could do all the computer stuff. I can't do all that technical stuff. But they needed somebody to write the narrative, right? How do you ask this question? How is a divorce defined? How is it different from a dissolution? Things like that. How many of you have heard or have seen TurboTax? Okay, I got a ton of hands. All right. Our program functions like and looks like TurboTax. If there's something that you don't know what it means, there's this whole little page that we have developed of narrative explaining what this means legally, this term. If you answer questions, all this information is collected and it is pushed into the form. You can print the forms, take them into the court. We check them over to make sure you haven't missed anything, and then you're ready to file. It has streamlined not only the back and forth between someone trying to file a form, one of the parties, it streamlined stuff for our staff. I now have staff who can be more responsive to other parties when they have questions. So we have found a balance using our technology, using our resources, our staff. It took us 2 years. I led the team, I led the writing, I led the testing. It was difficult work. It wasn't 8:30 to 4:30. We did this on our spare time. We made it happen, and it's there. And we're the first domestic relations court to do so in the state of Ohio. Here's the best thing. Thank you. Here's the best thing about it. It creates forms for Montgomery County residents or anybody filing here in Montgomery County, right? Anyone who's in the state of Ohio can use the same program and get the generic Supreme Court forms. So not only did we benefit Montgomery County people, we benefited the entire state of Ohio. That's the innovation I bring to this position. If you haven't caught on, I am passionate about the work I do. I know I've been called to do this work. I have dedicated my entire career to families, children, and over almost in the last decade, I've been dedicated to addressing the domestic violence problem here in our community. I want to continue this work as your next judge. I want you to consider one more thing when you go to the polls. 4 years ago, I was approached by people from within the Republican Party to consider running for judge. I was not real encouraged. I was a little shy. I've been a court administrator, been an administrator position for years, right? Wasn't sure if I was ready to really jump into this kind of pool. So I took quite some time. I spoke with my family, I spoke with my friends, and I prayed. I wanted to see, is this truly what is meant for me next? So I took time and I discerned. And I came up with the, yes, I will run for judge. But I'm only gonna run for one seat. I'm not running to get a robe. I am running to help our community, our families, our individuals have more healthy relationships and lives, period. 2.5 years ago, I went to both of my judges and I said, okay, I've made the decision. I'm going to do it, but I'm only doing it here, this court, this seat. About that time, I started meeting with people from within the community, from within the party, and said, hey, how do you run an effective, successful campaign in Montgomery County as a Republican, right? I knew that I had a good chance because I was replacing or hoping to replace a Republican seat. And Denise Cross had still an excellent reputation. She still does. She has many connections and she's opened doors. She's fostered and mentored me. As I'm doing that, I have an opponent, as you know, this is for a primary, folks. My opponent was running as a Democrat. She was running in the general division, for an election in the general division. She did not win, and a few weeks after the loss, she decided she wanted to be a Republican. I say this to you. I know people can change, but typically, when someone makes a change like that, you spend time. Just like I was trying to make a change of not ever wanting to run for office and running for office. You take time, you discern, you pray, and you say, am I changed here? And if I am, then I change out here.
Wow.
You don't do that in a couple of weeks because you lost an election.
Wow. Wow.
Okay? Anybody can run for any office. So if I have a competitor, I have a competitor. But I want you to know that I'm leaving it out there every single day. The reason I'm leaving you a little earlier today is because I'm going to go walk. I'm walking in my neighborhood. I'm trying to make connection with people so they know that I'm running for judge. This morning, I was out on Riverside Drive. I was downtown Dayton. I was everywhere putting signs up. Yesterday, I took vacation from work, and I was in West Carrollton and Moraine and Kettering trying to put up signs. I appreciate grassroots and getting the word out. I will meet with anybody I possibly can. I'm at MCL next week. I think there's some people that told me they may see me there. I'm asking for your help. You've heard me today. First, I hope that you will vote for me. Second, if you will vote for me and you believe my message, talk to people. I am not going to be able to get out and reach everybody. We're going to have snow this week. I have no idea if I can even get out. I know. I'm not even sure if I'll be able to get out and walk next weekend, right? So I'm doing everything I possibly can. Woo, sorry, Bernie. We'll put him back up later. But I'm really trying to get the word out. And I know that truly that because you're leaders in your community and your families, people know that you're educating yourselves about the choices you're going to make, right? They don't know much about judges. People don't know about us until you need us.
That's right. That's right.
So I'll do anything I can to try and get my word out, to introduce myself to folks. I'm happy to stay and answer some questions now, maybe if you have a few minutes. If I can steal a couple minutes from your time, Bob, I'm sorry. Just because, again, I don't want to leave things unanswered. There are signs here. I have some literature here. I'm happy to say I have some endorsements already. The Sheriff Streck has endorsed me. Chief Kurt Aldhouse, who is the Chief of Police in Vandalia. Tom Young, who's a state representative, he has endorsed me, and so has the County Treasurer, John McManus. I'm meeting with FOP, I'm meeting with Fire, I'm meeting with Carpenters. So hopefully more to come.